T.
Yeah. Is that redheaded bridesmaid? Melissa? Cute one from the Coldplay concert.
That's Melissa.
Is she coming?
She's a bridesmaid.
Yeah. Is she coming?
She's a bridesmaid. Yes.
What, did she ask about me?
Bad guy. Senior Taliban commander is a tier 1 target.
Shaw killed 20 Marines last week. We let him go. 40 more will die next week.
Going in with Dietz, Axelson, myself, Marcus. We have eyes on Shaw. A lot more than 10 guys. It's an army.
It's a very personal story. It's a wonderfully written first-person accounting of disaster and desperate situations that are, were life-threatening for him and life-ending for his colleagues.
I'm about ready to punch that time card. Do it.
Yeah! We can take them, but we're gonna need a new spot! Fall back! You mean fall off?
We're moving!
I think Peter's main thrust was we had to ensure that we involved the audience to make them feel like they were part of the SEAL team. So try to create a sound environment to envelop them and trying to have them experience exactly what the SEALs were experiencing during the mission.
The book is very descriptive. Marcus really describes what it's like not only to be in a firefight, but to sort of experience bullets, fracturing rocks and the shrapnel from those bullets. And so, there's a very descriptive accounting of what happened in Operation Red Wing in the book. And the whole immersion experience for Lone Survivor is about discontinuity. So in a typical movie environment, you're always looking to create continuity. In Lone Survivor, what we'd look to do is really create discontinuity so that your mind was always on alert.
When we first read the script and when we first started looking at the earlier cuts, we broke the film up into a couple different emotional arcs, and the film kind of does this for us.
One of the plot points of the film is they have to travel extremely far into remote mountain areas where the communications would be compromised.
The goal was to make the film feel very documentary in its style. And so the one thing that you do is really deprive the audience, one, of distracting backgrounds and of ambiences that might remind them of homes. And to do that by only providing the things that we wanted the audience to key in on. And so silence is a big part of this film.
Pete was very vehement about the radio communications being as authentic as possible, and we should be aware that the SEALs are constantly communicating to each other with their lav mics and their earpieces.
The way the dialogue was delivered through the headsets, keeping a sense of close mic'd, heavy breathing recordings, environments that made you feel like you were right up next to them, breathing with them, to silence. Silence is deafening.
We actually recorded it with 3 mics, 2 of these vintage handheld radio mics. I think one was steel and it may have come from a cop car, I don't know, and a boom. And we recorded them all at the same time.
Danny.
Get ready to fight.
What I really liked about this process was that we worked with all of the people that I hired. All the voices that we used were really either active duty or had been on duty, and they were all Navy SEALs, Marines, Rangers, Delta Force, and Air Force pilots that were actually part of it. And so the authenticity of it was really great.
We'd have Major Ed Blanchett come in, and he was the actual helicopter pilot on set that was recording. He actually worked when this project went down. He came in here into our cutting rooms numerous times and would redo helicopter chatter for us and give it so that we had the specific call-outs and the radio chatter that was necessary to keep true to the story.
I traveled to the set when Pete was shooting the movie and spent time with Pete and the crew and the actors, kind of seeing how it is that they went about it. In researching where the environment actually was, we found that there were actually similarities in some of the things that we could get of the winds and of the terrain, the way that the echoes worked and the way that some of the movement on screen worked.
Dror and I spent literally a week on the road looking for the correct acoustical spaces for recording our gun samples. The recording techniques that we used in this film are, somewhat revolutionary for us. We were doing multi-channel stereo recordings from great distance from the original source. And so what we had was really the ability to map what they call impulse responses, but really they're just echoes, in places that are some of the most beautiful places on Earth, where there were 5, 6, 8, 10 reflections off of these beautiful vertical faced walls of Monument Valley. An extraordinary place to work.
We went out and we recorded some good bullet trails, some good gun trails, and we did lots of sessions with slingshot for impacts into, rock and sand and wood. And we went to a gun range at Piru and to record Rickos. And then, of course, there were the helicopter recordings. I made the guns tighter than usual. They're very much like realistic, because a gun impact is is just a quick transient bang, and if you compress it, you squash it, then the bang gets longer, and the more you squash it, it gets longer, and then you wind up with a Western gunshot, But these are like pop, pow, bang, and that leaves lots of room for the other colors, the bullet travel.
What we did was we looked at the film acoustically rather than in any sort of linear sense. And we tried the best we could to present each shot with an acoustical experience and then a rhythmic experience. And the rhythm was like jazz. So, it's kind of make a mistake, repeat it twice. And unlike jazz, we didn't necessarily repeat things. We tried to keep your mind, or the mind of the audience, focused on how unpredictable the experience is.
When the gun battle does break out, you're not supposed to know how many enemy soldiers are out there. You're not supposed to really know where they are. So we wanted things to be location specific, but we also wanted to fool you. We wanted you to not know if there's somebody on the right or somebody on the left. So we tried to surround you with a feeling of danger without just having a wall of noise. It also had to be very realistic.
Spartan base, this is Spartan 0. Request immediate QRF troops in contact. Bam!
There's several sequences where the SEALs actually have to jump off the mountain and fly down. And initially, when you put all the Foley and all the sound effects together and they're falling off the mountain, it becomes pink noise almost. Sometimes it's a continuous sound. And one thing all of us agreed in one of the playbacks is, well, we need to create some holes. So when they're suspended in air, we need to suck away the sound.
I think the choreography between the sounds, the weapons hit the ground, the bodies then hit the ground, putting a vocal where it is that they're actually impacted, as well as the actual force of the different surfaces that they were hitting.
I think the track has power, it has definition and detail. I think we left appropriate spaces, and it's not punishingly loud or bright. And that's a real battle to have guns firing in your face and explosions going off and not making the audience wince. Like controlling mid-range, controlling dynamics, and still maintaining power. That takes a lot of skill on everyone's part, from people who recorded the sound effects to who cut them and to who mixed them. And I think that's the biggest tribute to the show, is it's big, powerful, detailed, but it doesn't hurt.
It's about a team of people working at the highest level. It's about a team of people that are constantly challenging themselves to do the best work that they're capable of, that really kind of comes together in an environment like this, where we're both inspired and challenged and looking absolutely at creating art out of chaos.